engineer where we do that thing and do the best. So actually he's brighter and smarter and has more creative ideas than I do, to be very honest with you. And I didn't interfere with them, and actually there was one company, he was too junior, so he was not allowed to make personal investment or even sit on a board. But there was one company that he had brought in, gone through due diligence and got convinced to the bosses that they should invest. They asked him to be observer, and it's called Suvidha, and it's gone places. So even now, he keeps track sitting here in the US, and if something happens to Suvidha, he sends me an email saying, see, I've made the right bet.
Yeah, so now we will open up questions for all NITians. So anyone who wants to take a lead?
Srinivas.
Yes, you are.
We are glad you're among us today. We keep hearing about you in the newspapers. I read about you associated with Pentium. I guess what sets you apart is like you caught the imagination of the people with the Pentium, you know. It's the imagination. Like you caught the imagination of the people. Several Indians are there in the Bay Area who are probably millionaires, are very rich, but we don't hear often about them. You know, I think that's a signal achievement, and we're happy to have you among us. You know. As you know, we are NITians. We are young in the sense we started our organization just 3-4 months back, and we are looking forward to speakers like you to give us guidance. You know, and one of the questions that I have for you is probably when you're going through your career. Working on Pentium. Have you become too passionate and too focused and lost some touch with the rest of the world? And did it in any way make you think, oh, okay, I'm missing out on some of the worldly events, and so I should branch out, network more, and maybe contribute more to the society? So how did you go through those motions? You know, because one of the questions that I get asked from my children is like, oh, you're too focused, you're too techy, we're not like you, we are younger generation. We want to go out and branch and network with people. We are not too focused. So what kind of advice would you give to all of us, you know, in pursuit of careers?
Well, before I give any advice, you know, I think one can only give advice if you're really worthy of giving advice. I'm not even sure I can give you advice. I can only share with you my experiences, to be honest with you. I was also too focused. So when you're saying this, I mean, there is no other way. A lot of people ask me, you know, what is the secret to success? I don't know. People have written lots of books, and Harvard guys write a lot of papers and articles about it. But in my life, I can only say it from my personal experience. Just do the best job of whatever it is given to you. Period. At Continental Devices India Limited, when I left, I only took one. The professors here wanted a reference. So I went to my boss, Mr. Madan, and I said, sir, would you kindly give some reference on me to the professors here? He was a man of few words. He just wrote down that if you want to get a job done, you can go to Mr. Dham. And that was my legacy at Continental Devices. If my boss said, and if I said to him, it'll get done, it got done. No matter what it took to get done. Even if I had to be there till 3 in the morning, if I had to beg 15 other people to help me, call Naveen Kapoor in the middle of the night, have guards open on the gate so I can go, whatever it took. If I had to put an oxygen cylinder and go to the Indian Oxygen Limited in Motinagar to get a fresh oxygen myself, to make sure that semiconductor run came out right, it got done. And that was all I did all my life, at every step. So when I got at NCR, I did the same thing. At Intel, I did the same thing. And then at some point, of course, the second thing is you have to at some point know what your calling is. Maybe the kids these days know pretty early on in their life. I was too old when I got my calling. I was 35 years old when I got my calling. And the calling to me is really figuring out what is it that you enjoy doing. By then I had recognized that just counting electrons, I'm a co-inventor of Flash, which is this thing that goes, you get all your photographs stored in memory stick. And after Flash, I had really gotten to a point where I said, I don't want to keep on counting electrons all my life. I'm a people person. I knew that in my heart. I enjoyed meeting people. But also I recognized that I was a big picture guy. I was not only interested in reading the IEEE article and publishing the paper or getting a patent or writing a book. I did all of that. But I always looked at things in a context of the bigger picture of who's using it, why are they using it, what are the other substitutes, how much does it sell, and for what price. And that was my personal interest, is what made me change my career and transition from, like my older son tells me, Dad, you have reinvented yourself 4 times. First you were a lab R&D guy doing this flash invention. Then you were a manager running all these processes and all this stuff. And then you were an entrepreneur. And now you're a venture capitalist. And I think I reinvented myself every time with a calling that I had, which also kind of built upon what I had done before. So it's not totally disconnected. So I think if you just follow that, there's really no magic, and there's no really magical answer to it. Yes?
You can come here.
Any one of you can.
So,
He can be loud, I think.
Yeah, you can be loud.
He's got...
since you're a venture capitalist, I just want to know, there was a question on the table. Like, when we approach you, right, what are the qualities or what are the things that you are actually looking for to actually find something?
So the question is, when entrepreneurs approach us, what do we look for? It's really, in some ways, complex, in some ways, extremely simple. What we look for is an idea that we will invest in that has a value proposition that's unique and compelling. Compelling because there is a market and there are customers who will buy it. Unique because it's somewhat differentiated from everybody else who's trying to do the same thing. And the second thing we look for is really the individual. Can we trust you with our money as an individual? Do you exhibit that confidence, exude that confidence that tells us, what, he's worth betting on. Not just, and I didn't mean to say money from the point of view of trust of money that you'll abuse it. Money in the terms that you will return the money. When I went to Silicon Spice, there were half a dozen people. There were 3 founders, MIT, 24, 25, and 26-year-old, who had been acting for, 6 months, a year, whatever, 6 months maybe, were funded by a well-known venture capitalist here, a couple of well-known venture capitalists. And they were working on a project that they had initiated at MIT called reconfigurable computing. How can you reconfigure a chip with software to do whatever it does? It can be doing your hair one day, and it can be soaping you the second day, and third day it could be changing your clothes. I mean, that's a great idea academically, but to bring it to life was an utter disaster. They had a chip that they're working on called GDC-1. GDC stood for goddamn chip. And it was a goddamn chip because its size was about the size of this glass, You don't make chips like that. So fine, you can show, that through some software you were able to reconfigure it to do a few things. But you can't make a company from it. That's a lab project. That's not a commercial project. The investors who had invested didn't know that. I had to completely turn that company upside down. In fact, what Silicon Spice did, other than its name, I love the name because there's spice in it. Other than the name and keeping those founders in place. They were young enough that I